So I encourage people to focus, right? Focus will make you rich. Shiny objects will make you go blind.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What is going on, my party people? This is Corey Boatwright. I am the founder of Real Estate Investing Profits and your host on Real Estate Investing Profit Masters podcast series. We have been having just some incredible interviews lately. Some of the best real estate investors around the country spilling, literally just giving you on a silver platter some of their best strategies, how they think, the mindset, which I think is probably one of the most important elements of what they provide. And today we have someone that I've known for many, many years, and you're going to hear more of him very, very soon. A little surprise for you there, a little cliffhanger. But I have Mr. Joe McCall, and Joe is a techie fiend, just like me. I love technology. I love how you can use technology to leverage your time. I love it so much that it's providing ways to get things done quicker. And also, it's a tool that can be used for good. Now, also, technology is something that can hurt you, right? If you don't know how to use it, it can suck away the time. There's also new gadgets coming out all the time. So where do you put your emphasis? And also, you can't let that thing use you, right? It's a tool. So, with technology integrating with real estate investing, we're seeing more of that in syndication, which is where you post something one time and it goes out on 10, 15, 20, 100 sites for advertising, marketing, these kind of concepts. It is something that you're seeing more of, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. So I have Joe McCall on here, which we're going to go through some of just some great things that he's doing right now with lease options. You're going to want to pay attention to what he gives you. It's really step by step. And Joe has a way of teaching. Not only is he an investor, but he's also a phenomenal coach. He has students. He has his own podcast that I'm going to highly encourage you to check out. And so I have always enjoyed talking with Joe. We've always hit it off in the very, very beginning. And I think you're going to hear a little bit about some of that here when you listen to the interview. Now, I want to make sure that you download, if you haven't already, the Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, which is download 38470. You download, you put in the word profit, and you text it to 38470. Okay, 38470. Text the word profit, and you will magically get a link sent right back to you where you can have that guide right on your phone. So it's pretty cool. And another cliffhanger for you. I'm working on another book. So I'm working on a really great project I've been excited about for a long time. I can't wait to tell you about it. But it's under wraps right now, but I will let you know very, very soon. So you will be the first to know, being one of our dedicated listeners and supporters. By the way, speaking of support, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You listening? We're approaching, some big numbers on our downloads, and I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. It means that you care what we're talking about. So if you haven't already, I would appreciate it greatly if you would go to iTunes and just write a review, and just an honest review. I do my very, very best, and I'm not perfect. I'm not certainly, the cup of tea for everyone, but I do my very best to give you what you wanted. Before I started this podcast, I spent many, many days asking you what it is that you wanted to hear from these guests. And that's what we're doing. We're asking these questions and giving you exactly what you told me you wanted. So I'm very, very interested in serving you the very best way possible. So if you could leave just an honest review about this podcast, it helps tremendously. It really does. You'd be surprised how many people listen and they just don't take the time to write a review. And I've done it too. Listen, it would get busy, right? But I'm asking you, it would mean something to me if you do that. Really would mean a lot to me. All you do is you just go on to Google, Just type in Corey Boatwright, iTunes, Real Estate Profit Masters. You can just go to Real Estate Investing Profit Masters. You can type in any of these and you'll pull up right there on iTunes and you can write a review right from your computer. And I believe you can do it also from your phone. So right in your iTunes. Lastly, if you're interested in coaching first, I want to know, where are you right now in your investing experience? Can you let me know? It would really help a lot to kind of give you the best direction on what we should do for your coaching. So what you can do is go to Corey Boatwright, Cory Boatright. I've set up a little, just a little form in there. It says, tell me about your experience in real estate investing. Okay. You can also access a video that I recorded for you by going to realestateinvestingprofits.com/coaching application, realestateinvestingprofits.com/coaching application. Okay. So there you go. There's some resources for you. I cannot wait to give you this episode. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Joe, and you're going to be hearing more from Joe and I together very, very soon. So I'll just leave it at that. But I appreciate you. I love you. God bless you. Remember, be a servant. And here's Joe McCall. What is going on, Joe McCall?
What's up, Corey Boatwright? That's so funny. That never gets old.
It never gets old. I love it. A little inside joke here that one day Joe was presenting and he was walking up to talk, and everyone said, "Welcome, Mr. Joe McCall." And for some reason, I don't know if I watched some cartoon recently or something, but I had this sound in my head of "Macaw, macaw."
Yeah.
And it just fit perfectly at the time. So
and then
when he walked up, it stuck. Everyone laughed, and now Joe is known as Joe McCall.
And of course, Sean Terry was there as well. So he then it became a competition of who could say it louder, Corey or Sean Terry. And they kept on going over and over.
Every time Joe would walk in the room, Sean would go, "McCall, McCall." And Jason too. All right, so I know you're on a time crunch here, so thanks for taking the time. I'm excited about some things that you and I are going to be doing together. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Joe,
yeah, man.
Everyone has heard about some things that you're doing. If you're on Facebook, you've seen Joe talk about lease options. You've seen him talk about wholesaling. Why don't you quickly tell everyone a little bit about what your expertise is right now and how you got involved with real estate investing?
Man, I've always loved real estate. I remember I started buying a bunch of courses back in 2006. Is that right? Yeah, I bought Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I had some friends that were doing real estate. They were going to these really expensive seminars, and actually one friend in particular, he was actually making really good money with this stuff. He was spending the money on education, was actually implementing it and making money. And so I thought, that's fascinating. And so I would pick his brain, and he would tell me what he knew, and he would just tell me, you just need to go buy this course or go to get this book. And so I started doing that. And it was one or two friends at the same time introduced me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Devoured that book. Then another friend recommended to me, you need to go see this guy in Austin, Texas, because he sells these duplexes. And so I went down there to meet the guy, and he told me about this book called Secrets of a Millionaire Landlord. And that was a book by Robert Sheeman, and in there he had a chapter about lease options. And that just it's fascinating to me, this topic of lease options and how you can rent a property to somebody who wants to buy it, who's not going to trash it like a typical tenant would, who's going to take better care of it. And so I started devouring a bunch of books. I started going to courses and signing up for coaching. And it wasn't until about 3 or 4 years later that I actually started making money. So I was in this horrible hamster wheel of consuming education but not ever doing anything with it, spending a lot of money on it. And it came to a point, though, in 2008, 2009, when my back was against the wall. I was hemorrhaging cash. I did have about 15 rental properties, but I had bought them all wrong, and they didn't have hardly any equity in it, hardly any cash flow. It was just horrible. My back was against the wall. I had wanted to do real estate. I almost got fired from my job. In fact, you could say I did get fired from my job, but I quit at the same time. And because I was spending too much time doing real estate stuff, and I wasn't really focused on my job, and I deserved it.
Did you have a breaking point? Did you have a breaking point where it's like you said, enough's enough from that?
Yeah. Well, because
job?
I gave myself, and my wife also gave me a deadline. Like, you either need to choose real estate or your career. And I was a civil engineer. I was a good paying job. You need to do one or the other. You cannot do both. I had a divided heart. I was trying to be a jack of all trades, but I was really a master of none. I was crappy at my job. I was crappy in my real estate investing, and my family was suffering as a result because I wasn't spending time with them, and I was always stressed and upset. And then the market collapsed, and that made everything worse. So I remember very, very vividly, I said, I am either in the next 3 months, I'm going to stop buying courses and I'm going to do what these guys say to do. I did buy one more course. It was Chris Chico's virtual wholesaling course. And I think I also bought Steve Cook's wholesaling course, Steve Cook from Life in Air. And I said, I'm going to do what these guys say to do, and I'm not going to question anything. I'm not going to change anything. I may not like their postcards. I may not like the way they make the offers. I'm not going to question. I'm just going to do it. And I was so determined that I was going to make this work. And if it didn't work, if I didn't do a deal in like 3 months, I was going to quit forever real estate, and I wasn't going to do anything more with it. And that was my deciding moment. My back was against the wall. And my first deal, I made all the mistakes possible, and I still did like $12,000 on my first deal. And that was exciting for me. Then I got super pumped, and I started doing a lot of direct mail because I was like, wow, this stuff really does work. I couldn't believe it. And it started working. It started working for him. Not because I was doing anything. I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was just doing what the guy said to do and not changing anything. And I just don't know why it was so hard for me to accept the fact that these guys knew more than me. You know what I mean? That's kind of weird, right?
It's common, right? Because you're pushing so hard to do your own thing, right? And everyone's coming against you. And so there's a point where you go, when do I listen? Yeah. Right. And the time when you listen the answer is whenever you find a coach that has done what you want to do. That's really the bottom line. If they've accomplished something or done something that you haven't, and you want to learn from them. And the smartest thing that you just said there, I think, is you didn't question. You just did it. The postcard looked ugly as sin. You didn't care. You just did it. You knew that list may or may not work. You didn't care. You just did it, right? And from that, then you got the result. And then there's a new, I think, change that goes on, a new tweaking in your mind that says, wow, maybe I can get further by getting coaching. Maybe I can get further by asking people for help. And maybe it doesn't make me less of a person. It makes me more of a person. Yeah, it's a big tweak in the mindset.
Yeah, and I knew all the technical things, but I think it was mindset in some way. I kept on getting in my own way. I kept on tripping over myself. I felt like I had to have all my questions answered first. I had to understand steps 7 and 8 before I start do steps 1 and 2. And if I didn't like step 7, I would buy another course to try to figure out how to do step 7. Or I wouldn't just trust the system. I was trying to reinvent the wheel, and it was ridiculous. I didn't need to do that. The guy, it was Chico at the time, he said, it's really simple. You get this list, you send this postcard, you use this script when you talk to them, you ask these questions, you make this offer, you use this contract, and then when, not if, but when a seller says yes, then you then advertise it like this, the property, right, or the contract. And for some reason, I just couldn't believe you could really do that. I had to have all my I's dotted, all my T's crossed, because I'm an engineer by trade. I guess I overanalyzed everything. And I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of success. I was like, what if this fails? Or what if it works? Then what am I going to do? When, it's just, I was my own worst enemy is what I was. You know what I'm saying?
I do, and I feel the same way. I mean, we're the ones that get in our own way. What's working right now for your profit master investing strategy? What would you say has impacted your bottom line the most? What's the strategy you can share right now that really works with the time frame that we have allotted right now?
Yeah, so I still do wholesaling. I do lease options and I do land flips. Okay, so I encourage people to focus. Right, focus will make you rich. Shiny objects will make you go blind. But So, when I figured out wholesaling, I was doing that. Then I added on lease options. And when I figured on lease options, I then add on land flipping. So we're flipping vacant land now. But, it was in 2009, what really helped me quit my job was flipping lease options, because I was doing a ton of marketing and throwing away a lot of leads that didn't have any equity. I was sick of throwing away these leads that I spent so much money on that didn't have enough equity, or if they did, they weren't willing to share any of it with me. And so I said, right, what can I do with these leads? And I just started asking them. I said, well, okay, you won't take my cash offer, but would you consider, you have it here listed for rent. Maybe I could lease it from you for a year or two and then buy it, and I can give you full price for it. What would you want to do then? And they said, yeah, that sounds good to me. So then I would structure it as a lease option. And instead of then selling my contract to an investor like you do with regular wholesaling, I would sell the contract to a tenant buyer. And so I started making more money doing that, flipping these lease options to tenant buyers, than I was on my full-time job. And that's when I quit my job in 2009. And I also realized that I saw an opportunity where other people weren't doing this. And so I thought, well, maybe I could teach this stuff and teach people how to do it. And so that's kind of started this whole journey for me. And I love lease options because they're the best way, in my opinion, to control property without owning it. I didn't want to own any more property. And I find that lease options are easier to do than regular wholesaling deals are.
That's incredible. And I think a lot of people would argue with that. So I'd love to, if we had the time to get into it more, but I know that you have some ways that people can talk to you about that. I know you've got some courses, some books and things. We'll have a way that people can get in touch with you here at the end of this interview. But I'd like to speak for 5 seconds on whenever you do that lease option, you walk away at that point, and then you leave it up to that end buyer to cash that person out, and then you're done with it, or do you stay in the middle?
If the numbers work, I'll stay in the middle. If they don't work, then I'm out of the deal, right? So the numbers for me, in order for them to work, for me to stay in the middle, I need to have at least 15% equity, and I need to have at least $300-400 a month in cash flow, depending on. And I like to only do nice homes in nice areas, so I'm sticking in the median price range. Oklahoma City, St. Louis, similar, and we're probably median price range of about 150. So I like to stay, between $125,000 and $225,000, right? So if I'm staying in that price range, those are good homes that will always have a demand. They're not too expensive. They're not cheap. And so there'll always be a high demand for those homes. And I can flip those things really, really quickly. Most wholesalers, they're focusing on homes under $100,000, right? That's where you can flip them to landlords and stuff like that. So because if you look at the numbers, like of all the people that buy homes today, 25% of them approximately are landlords or investors, right? 75% of all the homes that are bought are bought by retail buyers. So, one of my kids behind me, I thought I heard some footsteps behind me. Did you see? I
just thought about that video. I thought about that video that's viral on going viral right now.
On the guy
that newscaster. There's the kid.
There she is. This is Jewel. She's my sister.
Hey, Jewel, what's up?
He said hi. She can't hear you right now. Hey, listen, go downstairs. I'll be there soon. She's got to get something in our other. Sorry. 75% of all the homes that are sold to retail buyers. And what do retail buyers want? They want nicer homes in nice areas and good school districts in the median price range. And so all of these wholesalers are focusing on this 20-25% of homes out there. I want to focus on the 75% of the homes. And I find when I get one of those properties under a lease option contract, I can sell them a lot faster because there's such a higher demand for those homes. And just picture this. If people don't think I'm right, Which offer do you think is going to get more likely to be accepted? Somebody that's a house that's worth 150 and you go in and offer 100, okay, $100,000 cash, or my offer,
right.
150,000. I'll offer them 150,000 on a lease purchase where I can rent it for a year or two for whatever market rents are, and then buy it. So I'm giving them.
It depends on how much. It depends on how much you're asking for that lease option down payment.
Well, yeah. So when I am advertising it for a tenant buyer, I typically try to get 3 to 5%. But just from the seller, the A to B, the contract between the investor and the seller, it's much easier to get a contract at full price and to lease it for full price than cash now at 60, 70 cents on the dollar. And
right. And are you screening those lease tenant buyers? Are they screening them to see if they're good tenant buyers?
So I work with a nationwide credit application tenant screening company, right, that reviews all my applications, and then I work with a mortgage broker that works with them, and I'm looking for tenant buyers that have a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 1 or 2 years. So they have to afford the home, so their debt to income ratio has to be similar within line, and there's only like minor things that they need to fix. Like if they have a huge judgment or lien or unpaid child support, alimony, I can't take them. But I only take people that can afford the home and have a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 1 or 2 years. And if they do, then they work with my mortgage broker or my credit repair company.
Okay.
And we're not just putting the first person in that can fog a mirror or who has a big option deposit. We're only putting in people that have a realistic chance of getting a mortgage in 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
That's important because a lot of reasons why lease options don't work. There's 2 big reasons why lease options don't work for most investors. Number one, they're only doing them Go ahead.
Let's talk about this when you're going into it, because I think it's a good this segue into it for a time that I know you got to go. So I'm trying to make the most of it here. What's a big challenge that you've had with lease options? And maybe that can lead right into your 2 reasons of why they don't work.
One of the biggest challenges with all investors, it's getting a little harder now to find deals because it's easier for sellers to sell homes, and they're also more optimistic. But
put it on Craigslist themselves, put it on Zillow themselves, whatever, right?
Right. But there are still tons and tons of sellers that want to sell their home right now but can't. They bought it a couple years ago with FHA financing. They didn't put any money down or 3.5% down. The prices haven't risen that much. They got a job transfer, a divorce, life happens. Something happened where they have to move or they can't afford it anymore, and there's some distress. Well, the average wholesaler that goes to them can't help them, and the realtor can't help them, because they have to pay commissions, and it's going to have to sit on the market for 3 to 6 months. I mean, maybe, 2 to 3 months, but the seller can't afford to make payments on a vacant house for a couple, 3 months. So they've resigned to the fact that they have to rent the property out. Well, then they're afraid, I don't want to be a long distance landlord, right? I don't want to manage this property from Florida. But when I can come to them and say, listen, I could lease your property. I give them 2 offers. I give the seller 2 offers. I can be the tenant and I can lease the property from you, and I'll take care of all the maintenance and repairs. I'll take care of any vacancies, and I'll manage the property. And that's called a sandwich lease option, where I'm going to stay in the middle. If there's equity and if there's cash flow, I'll stay in the middle. But if there's not, I say, listen, I will give you a lease option contract for full price for the home, all right? And I'll give you market rents for the home. So if the house is worth $150, they owe $140, let's say. I'll give them a lease option contract for what they owe for $140. And they'll say the rents are $1,250 a month. I'll give them a contract for $1,250 a month. And I tell them, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to advertise my contract and sell my contract to another tenant buyer for a fee. And I keep that fee as my profit. Okay. Now, I am licensed. I am a licensed realtor. But if you aren't licensed, I recommend you just hire a realtor to market these properties for you. You can find leasing agents for a half a month's rent that can advertise these properties for you. In fact, I even have a student.
Why do you recommend that, Joe?
Because you don't have to, but in the eyes of some, in the eyes of a real estate commission that's full of realtors, by the way, they look at that and they may say that's brokering. And you could make
Right.
the argument that it's not, because you're just assigning your interest, you're a principal in the transaction, you have
Sure.
equitable interest, and you're assigning your interest. But you won't win that
Sure.
argument with a panel of 7 realtors that are, and maybe 1 non-realtor in a real estate commission thing. All right.
Sure.
So, I've always recommended to my students, you get your license. And if not, then hire an agent to market your home for you. I have a student right now in Florida that is doing a lot of round robin auctions for lease options. She's round robbing the option money down payment, right? She's auctioning the option deposit.
Right.
She
gets a bunch of people to home to see who wants to put up the most money.
But here's the cool thing that she's doing. She's doing flat fee listings. And Corey, you know what's funny? I remember you telling me to do that many, many years ago. Remember when we were talking about, I picked you up at the airport, we were at Sean McCloskey's event. And I remember you telling me that, like, with your lease option deals, Joe, just put them on the MLS. Why not? Well, so you could do a flat fee listing.
$250 or $300, $300 to do it. Right.
Well, she's paying $100 to do it.
Right. Because you're probably doing a lot of them. That's good.
Yeah. Well, so you could do a flat fee listing, get it on the MLS, and you have to have the seller, the owner of the property, sign some disclosure that's letting you do that. You got to find an investor-friendly broker that lets you do that. But it's not a big deal. It really isn't. So that's why I say get a leasing agent to do it for you, or just list it on the MLS, and make sure you work any commissions that you might have to pay, work that into your offer. But so I can give a seller whatever price they want as long as they're willing to wait for it. And they're leasing the property now to somebody who wants to buy it in the future, so they're going to take better care of it, right? They're going to take care of the maintenance and repairs. They have more invested in the property, so they're not going to just want to walk away from it, because if they did, they would lose all of that option deposit money they put down up front. Does that make sense?
Right. That's good. No, I like it. Makes sense. I know you can speak deeper into it, because I know there's more tentacles that come out of that octopus.
Well, let me finish the thing too, where we said at the beginning, there's 2 reasons why lease options don't work out. One of the first reasons is investors are doing them with junky, crappy homes, like these homes that are under 100,000. Let's say a tenant buyer got their credit fixed. Are they going to want to buy this $67,000 house? Or are they going to, now that they can get a mortgage, are they going to want to go buy the $125,000 house in a nicer neighborhood? So there's not much incentive for these tenant buyers to get their credit fixed and buy these homes in these neighborhoods. That's the number one reason why most lease options fail, is because they're not on nice homes. The second reason is investors are not doing a good enough job pre-screening tenant buyers. They're taking the first person in. I think that's the number one. Well, yeah.
Right, that's the number.
And there's gurus that are out there teaching this, Corey, and it bothers me. They're teaching, just get the first one in there that has the most money, and hopefully they don't buy it, because then you can just turn it around and get some more option deposit money and raise the price of the home. I
have to have a pre-screening process for this thing to work long term.
Yeah.
And there's a friend that I know that basically, you think, how am I going to do that? All they do is they have a phone number that goes to the place that screens the buyers. So the phone number, the person calls, they're interested, right? Before they even know anything else, right? They work with this person to see where they are and what they can afford, right? So before they even talk to the person, they know whether or not they're qualified or not. So you can do it that way, or you can do a handoff. You can say, here's what we're going to do, build the relationship, and then hand them off, right? But you have to have a pre-screening process.
And that's super important. And I work with a lady, when I get an application, she reviews it. She's very, very thorough. And then I also work with a mortgage broker that looks at them and says, yeah, you know, they're a good candidate. If they do this, I'm not promising, but if they do this and this, they should be able to get a mortgage, a good mortgage, in a year or two. And so that would make it a good candidate. And then all I do is I will assign my contract that I have between me and the seller. I will assign or sell that contract to the tenant buyer, and then I'm out of the picture, and it's an agreement between those two. That's a lease option assignment or a wholesaling lease option deal.
Very interesting, Joe. I know you've really mastered that. I know you've have other people that are successful at doing it. And I'll have a way for people to ask you more about that. I'm sure their mind's spinning right now if they never heard of the concept. I know you're real successful with it. What's a great lesson that you've learned to get you where you are today? Let's start a speed round.
Dogged, persistent. persistence and massive imperfect action. I've borrowed that from a friend of mine, Tom Kroll. Massive imperfect action. It's just like, you know what? Hell be damned if that's the right word for it. Like, I'm going to do this anyway, and it's okay if I make a mistake. I'm going to do this anyway, and I'm going to figure it out. And so
that's awesome. That's great. That is, I love that, because it's so important, especially it speaks to your mind as an engineer on wanting to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. It's so foreign a lot of times to take that other route.
Yeah.
That says, I have to figure it all out before I jump out there. But the funny part is that in this business, in many others too, but particularly in real estate investing, that is one of the keys to success. You are not going to have all of the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. I mean, we're just talking before I got on here. There's a title company issue, that we have. We've done hundreds of transactions before, but there's still issues that come up, right? So you've got to be willing to jump in the ring. You got to be willing to step out from the crowd, right? Because that's what you are. You're a spectator watching everybody achieve their dreams, watching everybody do the things that you want to do, believing that it's possible for you, but you're a spectator until you get out into the game, right? Until you are a player, right? That's when things change in your life. And you know what? When you're a player, someone throws a fastball at you, you may get hit with it. Most of the time, you're not, right? But you may get hit and it may hurt. Most likely, you're probably not going to die from it, right? So I think it speaks to perfect inaction, massive inaction. I love that. If you had to start all over again, what would you change? What's some advice for newbies?
If I had to start all over again, I would. I still believe in education, right? I don't regret any course coaching that I bought. I would have just taken action sooner. It relates to what we're saying. I would have taken more action sooner, and I would have been more focused, not trying to do too many things. Just focus on one strategy.
Focus on one strategy. I like that. What's your favorite motivational or business quote?
It's one that's been sticking around in my head since I was a teenager. It's by John Elliott, I believe. Jim Elliott. It's called, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. This was a missionary who was martyred in South America in the 70s, I believe. 70s or 80s. And it's an amazing story. His name is Jim Elliott.
What a powerful quote. I'll have to look at. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put a lot of things here in the show notes that we go over, so you can make sure that you can get access to that for what Joe's speaking about here. What's some books that you recommend, Joe? One that's really changed your life?
Pumpkin Plan is a really, really good book. I'm in the middle of reading and implementing right now Profit First by the same author. Pumpkin Plan and Profit First are really good. But I have a lot of them. Those right now are just the top two that on my head. I like reading World War II history and Civil War history books, but that's not related to real estate investing.
I didn't know that about you, Joe. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. What's one of your favorite mobile apps that you use in your business every day?
I use Evernote all the time. And,
I love Evernote. I use it today.
Yeah. I can't think of that. Like an hour I don't use Evernote. But I love Voxer. I use Voxer a lot too. And Slack.
Voxer's great. The walkie-talkie type app, like the old Nextel Voxer. Very, very cool app. I love that app. What do you get 8 hours of sleep every night?
About 7.
And that's with how many kids?
4. 4 kids. We have 4 kids. 13, 11, 8, and 6. You saw my 6-year-old in here. We homeschool them, so they are here all the time. And we go to a huge church, and there's a lot of activities we do with our kids at church. They're into a lot of sports and music stuff as well. Gymnastics and dance, music, basketball, baseball. So we're really active. We go out and do a lot of things. And we also travel a lot too. One of the biggest reasons why we homeschool is we'll go to Europe for a couple, 3 months at a time, or we'll go in an RV for a couple, 3 months. So we try to do that about every year, go on a big trip somewhere. And so yeah, we're one of my 6-year-old. She always wakes me up really early in the morning, so I maybe could get 8 hours of sleep if she wasn't waking me up.
If she wasn't waking you up, you have a morning routine?
Coffee, and I try to read the Bible every morning. About 75% of the time, I'll be able to do that. That's it.
So okay,
and I'll do some push-ups. I'll do some push-ups.
Do some push-ups.
Yes.
I love that. I do jumping jacks too.
Do you?
Jumping jacks are do 100 jumping jacks. They can go really fast, especially if you do 2 sets of 50 in a little 2-minute rest period. It's you can get through 100 very quickly, or you can just go straight for 100. But it uses every part of your body, so they're very good. What about what are you grateful for, Joe? What are you most grateful for?
I'm grateful for my family. Here's a picture of them right now sitting at the lunch table waiting for me to join them for lunch. You can't see
it. We need to stop here in like 30 seconds.
Do you want to see it? I don't know how well you can see that, but they're all sitting at the lunch table right now. And that's one of the things why I love this business, Corey. I'm grateful for this business. I'm grateful to God to give me the liberty and the luxury of being able to have a business where I can work from home, have lunch with my family, because we're always doing things at night, right? I mean, we're going to baseball or basketball or dance or gymnastics, church stuff. So, I'm blessed. My office is in we have our home over there and then a separate building. It's like a carriage house where my office is in upstairs. And so I'm kind of separate, but still at home, which I think is amazing.
Right.
I'm looking over. I've got, we're on 3 acres. We have about 2,200 acres of state park forest behind us with rolling hills. It's just a gorgeous view. So I'm super blessed.
Inspired and blessed. That's awesome, man. At what point would you recommend hiring a mentor, and how important has it been into your life?
Well, I just hired a new mentor a couple weeks ago. I think coaching is super important. I do coaching myself, but I also put my money where my mouth is, and I hire coaches as well. I'm also part of masterminds. It's always important to sharpen your brain, sharpen your skills. And you get kind of clustered or bubbled, you know what I mean, like sheltered when you're in your own market doing your own thing. But when you get the outside opinion of a coach, you can see things from 30,000 feet that you can't see because you're in the weeds, or you can get part of a mastermind where you see how other people are doing things and what's working for them. That is invaluable to me. I mean, that's priceless almost, because if you're going to stay ahead of the game, and competition is fierce right now in this market, and the market's constantly changing, you've got to get input from other people and see what they're doing, not try to reinvent the wheel, just copy what works, model what works. And coaching is really important for me. And that's one of the biggest joys I get out of this business is coaching other people as well.
I know. And I know you have a lot of successful students. It's one of the greatest benefits and impacts that you have from coaching is seeing the students succeed. And so that's an incredible feeling. If you had to summarize it, Joe, why do you do what you do? What gets you up in the morning?
I'm passionate about it. I love this business. I love real estate. I love podcasting. I love my family. So it's pretty simple. It's just, I make really good money in this business. And I love talking to people all over the world. Just yesterday in my podcast, I interviewed some missionaries from Africa that were doing deals in the United States. They're missionaries and they're supporting themselves in Uganda, and doing about 3 to 4 deals a month in about 2 or 3 different markets in the U.S., right? And so they've learned a lot of what they do from my podcast, from my courses, and I get to talk to these guys. I get to interview them on my podcast. I mean, how cool is that, right? And somebody listening to that podcast is going to think, oh, you know what? We could do that, right? We could go be missionaries in some third world country and support ourselves through real estate while we're ministering to the poor. Like I get to have an influence and an impact on somebody like that. So that's what gets me going. That's what's passionate. Makes
I love that. I love it. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Thanks for taking the time, because I know you're on a time schedule here. But what's the best way to get in touch with you? Someone wants to learn more about lease options and more what you offer.
Well, my podcast, realestateinvestingmastery.com. Realestateinvestingmastery.com is my podcast. My wholesaling lease options stuff is at wholesalingleaseoptions.com. Wholesalingleaseoptions.com. I'm in the middle of updating my website right now, but I have some blog posts there. You can watch a webinar that I have there. And so that's a cool place to go check out.
Good. All right. Well, Joe, go have lunch.
Yes.
And thanks for taking the time to be on here. We're going to talk to you a little bit later. Make sure you stay tuned on some things that Joe and I are working on together. And I think you're gonna dig it. He and I both have a passion for technology and what it can do for this business. I know other people that have utilized technologies in different markets, and you can really do some amazing things with it. But you've got to know which tools to use and why to use them, right? Because sometimes it can be a lot of noise in the market. So we're excited about be able to provide some clarity on things that we use in our own business, but also new tools that come out and ways that you can take advantage of them to save time and energy and be productive that way. So, Joe, thank you again for taking the time to be on here, man.
My pleasure, man. It's good talking to you, Corey. We'll talk soon.
All right. Remember, be a servant, just like Joe is here, and we'll be hitting you with the next Real Estate Investing Profit Master podcast soon. Bye now.
See you guys.
Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity. Complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path, provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast Series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.